About 4 months ago, my wife, who was in her 30s, and I had been happily married for 2 years. I had carefully planned a 2-day business trip, intending to leave early in the morning and return late in the evening the next day. But fate decided otherwise. After a 5-hour drive, I received the sad news that the trip had been abruptly canceled. Surprisingly, this turn of events did not upset me too much. Given that I would be compensated for my time anyway, I made an impromptu decision to return home. When I arrived home, I was stunned to see the car parked next to my wife's car. I soon learned that it belonged to her cousin, a tough guy who was happily married and had a child that my wife was taking care of. They had a special friendship and often went camping, regardless of the weather. These long hikes brought them great joy, especially to my wife, who very much dreamed of motherhood in the future. Personally, their hikes did not bother me, as I was not particularly inclined to do so myself. Instead, at such times, I usually devoted myself to some extra work or other activities. I was making miniature boats, a hobby I sincerely enjoyed. Although I sincerely maintained a bond between my wife and her brother, a sense of caution began to creep into my soul after an incident at our wedding. On that memorable day, her estranged brother suddenly became overwhelmed with emotion and kissed my wife's lips. Caught off guard, I found myself unable to react at that moment because it all happened so quickly. In the end, he expressed remorse and apologized, explaining his actions with strong emotions caused by the fact that I was very happy for my half-sister that she was married and their communication would be limited. When I arrived home and parked my car behind my wife's car, I was surprised by the faint but sonorous melody of slow music. This unusual setting made me raise an eyebrow, for it was totally out of character for both my wife and my brother-in-law. Showing curiosity, I decided to find out the source of this unusual phenomenon. Once inside, I saw a sight that required no imagination. My wife and her stepbrother were performing an intimate, slow dance. Their bodies intertwined in a tender embrace, evoking the sense of romance usually reserved for couples in love. As soon as their eyes met mine, guilt flashed across their faces, causing them to hastily part their intimate embrace. The traitorous expression imprinted on their faces made me feel with bated breath that my marriage was on the verge of collapse. My wife tried to justify their actions by explaining that her stepbrother was seeking solace amidst the turmoil of his own marital problems, and she was simply providing him with emotional support. However, despite understanding the complexity of their situation, I could not shake off the annoying question of why they had chosen a slow dance in our living room to express their support. Aware of the suspicious nature of it all, I decided to refrain from further questioning, letting the gravity of their act hang in the air without voicing it. Shortly after my wife left to babysit my little niece, fate decided to intervene, and one day she accidentally forgot her phone. Overwhelmed by curiosity and suspicion, I could not resist the urge to look through her WhatsApp messages. What I saw in those messages was simply disgusting and deeply disturbing. My wife was having an affair with her stepbrother, shamelessly sharing intimate photos, professing her love for him, and even arranging secret dates under the guise of babysitting duties. The shock of this disgusting revelation came over me like a tidal wave, leaving me utterly bewildered. In my disbelief, I simply tossed her phone aside, unable to bear the weight of the truth I had just learned. Overwhelmed by a mixture of emotions, I quickly took refuge in the bathroom, succumbing to a fit of nausea that mirrored the nauseating reality before me. Among those around me, it was assumed that my wife and her brother had an exceptionally close relationship, due to their difficulties in forming friendships in their younger years and their shared love of camping, a passion that set them apart in our family. But gradually, I realized that my wife's immediate decision would not put an end to their inappropriate behavior. It was a painful realization that I had unwittingly become merely the facade of a husband, unknowingly allowing my wife to engage in a secret and deeply disturbing, intimate relationship with her stepbrother. Her mother had married her new brother's father 5 years before we were married. Overwhelmed by rage and a sense of deep betrayal, I returned to her phone, my emotions running high. For self-preservation, I took screenshots of the devastating evidence and discreetly sent them to myself while pretending to be calm in our communication. It was excruciating to watch her continue to act like nothing had happened, hiding the fact that she had had a secret date with her brother, albeit stepbrother, unbeknownst to me. That night, I lay awake next to her in our bed, tormented by a restless consciousness that would not go to sleep. The next morning, I decided to enlist the help of a private detective to find concrete physical evidence of their illicit relationship. I knew that when the time came to reveal the undeniable truth to my wife, she would have no choice but to face the consequences of her actions. Shortly thereafter, she mentioned in passing her plans to go camping with her brother, and I played along, at the same time discreetly informing the private detective of developments. Late that night, a phone call from the detective broke the silence, revealing that my wife and her brother had indeed checked into a hotel room on the beach, further confirming the depth of their betrayal. When I learned that I would soon have all the proof, I wasted no time in packing my things. The fact that they hadn't gone camping together this time puzzled me, but I was too emotionally detached to really worry about anything. My inbox was filled with pictures of them leisurely strolling along the beach and boardwalk, showing the affection of a newly married couple. Her half-brother's hand rested boldly on her buttocks, and they shared passionate kisses on their lips and exchanged intimate glances over drinks at the bar. The evidence spoke volumes. It was undeniable that they were romantically involved. Since my decision to leave was inevitable, I decided to gather her immediate and extended family and friends for the meeting. Among those present was the stepbrother's wife and child. I took large, printed copies of the pictures and carefully arranged them around the house, starting at the entrance, humming softly. Before my departure, I left a note on the door, instructing them to enter at their convenience. Little did they suspect that I had already departed from town, carrying all my belongings with me and harboring no intention of ever returning. Upon entering the house, they immediately contacted me in a state of panic, demanding an explanation about the photographs. Over the phone, I carefully explained the situation, leaving no room for doubt. I told them that the two family members had engaged in an intimate relationship that had apparently arisen while they were camping together. To further corroborate my words, I even revealed their current whereabouts, giving them the opportunity to see the truth for themselves. A few hours later, my future ex-wife called, her voice full of rage and chaos unfolding in the background. The scene unfolded at the hotel when it became clear that her entire family was gathered there, as well as several friends. Tensions escalated, resulting in her cousins physically assaulting her half-brother, causing the hotel staff to inform the authorities. In the midst of the chaos, she contacted me, demanding an explanation for my actions. I responded firmly that she deserved the consequences of her actions. She was living a facade, a deception that had become unsustainable. I told her there were divorce papers on the table, which made her burst into tears. Overwhelmed by my own pain, I decided to end the conversation, not wanting to think about the possible outcome of her future. A few days later, her mother contacted me and apologized on behalf of her daughter and her husband's son, who had become like family to her. She told me that when the police arrived at the hotel, my future ex-wife tried to run away, but accidentally tripped and fell all over her body on a fence post in the flower bed. As a result, doctors are now fighting for her life. Her life hangs in the balance, her internal organs are damaged, and a lot of blood is lost. After that, the whole family was at a loss for a few days, but now they are slowly gaining a sense of stability and hope that everything will be okay with my future ex-wife. My brother's wife has started divorce proceedings and is seeking custody and alimony. Since neither of them has signed the divorce papers yet, we are left to wait to see how the legal process develops. I find comfort in the fact that the truth was revealed just when it was revealed, as I would not have been able to continue the relationship without knowing the harsh reality. My focus now is to move forward and put this chapter behind me. I have found a beautiful new place I can call home, and I am taking advantage of all the opportunities that are in front of me. Working for the same company, I act cautiously, taking each step as it comes. This whole scenario still seems incredibly unrealistic to me. 3 months later, my now ex-wife regained consciousness, but the doctors predicted that she would never be able to move around on her own again. I can't imagine the mental anguish and turmoil her family had to endure. I am thankful that we did not have children before this event. If she had gotten pregnant by her stepbrother and tried to trick me into believing it was our child, it would have been unimaginably hard. The disclosure of this situation would have caused tremendous pain for everyone. Deep down, I felt sorry for my ex-wife. I didn't want her to remain an invalid. But I think for her terrible actions, destroying 2 families is punishment. This is the way fate has dealt with her life.